All right, I'm going to call to order the public hearing meeting for Monday, January 17th, 2022. And just before we get started, there are a whole host of speakers who want to participate in this meeting. And apparently it looks like somehow they got the wrong coordinates for this meeting. So if you're listening, through the chat feature on, because what you've done is you've come into our general purposes committee, which we adjourned a couple hours ago. But we're going to, the clerk is going to go into the chat feature and let people know to log off that meeting and come into this meeting, and we'll give you the coordinates for that. That is right, gentlemen? Okay? Okay, so hopefully that'll get everybody, all the speakers, the potential speakers into this meeting. So to kick things off, I do have a presentation or a statement to read. This council meeting is being convened in order to hold public hearings on land use matters. The public and anyone who believes that their interest in property is affected by the agenda item may speak or present written submissions to council. Everyone will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at the hearing. No one should feel discouraged from making their views known. Those of you who wish to speak or have registered with the city clerk should, after being recognized by the chair, begin by clearly stating your name and your address. If you have provided a written submission, please make this known at the beginning of your presentation. All written submissions will be retained by the city clerk and will form part of the record of the hearing. Each speaker may address the hearing a maximum of twice. The length of your first presentation will be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes. Your comments must be relevant and not obstruct the hearing. Any additional presentation, which must be on new information, will be limited to 3 minutes. Members of council may ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the function of council members during a public hearing is to listen to the views of the public, not to debate the merits of matters with citizens. Any debate will occur at the subsequent vote. The order of proceeding for each item will normally be as follows. Firstly, the city clerk will briefly describe the matter under consideration. Secondly, the applicant or their agent will be invited to make a brief presentation up to 10 minutes. Then the city clerk will identify any written submissions received. Then oral submissions from the public will be heard, and any further written submissions will be received. And finally, the hearing will be closed and matters may be considered. Please observe these rules if you have any concerns with the matter in which the hearing is conducted. Direct your comments to the chair. So we've got 2 items on the agenda. The first item, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 1 is Richmond Zoning Bylaw 8500, Amendment Bylaw 10308, RZ 20-908348. The location is 8211 Number 3 Road. The applicant is Richard Zhang. The purpose is to rezone the subject property from the single detached RS1E zone to the compact single detached RC2 zone, to permit the property to be subdivided to create 2 single-family lots with vehicle access from the rear lane. And first reading was December 6, 2021.
Okay, the applicant, I don't suppose, is the applicant here, either online or in person?
We don't have the applicant connected to the meeting.
All right. Any written submissions?
We have none, Your Worship.
Well, there's not going to be anybody approaching this one. I'll ask for action, second and third. Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Now it's going to be more tricky because we don't have these speakers for the next one. Well, let's introduce it and we'll see where we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 2 is Official Community Plan Bylaw 7100, Amendment Bylaw 10235, and Richmond Zoning Bylaw 8500, Amendment Bylaw 10198, RZ 18-836123. The location is 8671, 8731, 8771, 8831, 8851 Canby Road, 8791 Canby Road / 3600 Sexsmith Road, and 3480, 3500, 3520, and 3540/3560 Sexsmith Road. The applicant is Polygon Talisman Park Limited. The purpose of the OCP designation amendment is to allow for additional density of maximum 0.02 FAR with the provision of additional secured public open space above and beyond the CCAP requirement on the subject site. First reading of this bylaw was December 6, 2021. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to create the residential limited commercial ZMU 47 Capstan Village City Center Zone and to rezone 8671, 8731, 8771, 8831, 8851 Canby Road, 8791 Canby Road, 3600 Sexsmith Road, and 3480, 3500, 3520, and 3540/3560 Sexsmith Road from the single detached RS1F zone to the residential limited commercial ZMU 47 Capstan Village City Center Zone and the school and institutional use SI zone to permit the development of a mixed-use mid-rise and high-rise development with approximately 784 square meters, 8,438 square feet of commercial space, and 1,341 dwelling units, including 156 affordable housing units and 171 market rental units, and a city-owned neighborhood park. First reading of the zoning amendment was December 6, 2021.
All right. What we were going to do was to start off with a brief presentation by staff on the project. I suggest we'll do that, and then we'll figure out. I see one of the speakers has entered the waiting room, so maybe that's a good sign that others are going to be there as well. So let's figure it out. So we'll ask staff if we could have a brief presentation on this.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of Council, the proposal under consideration tonight is for a mixed-use mid-rise and high-rise development consisting of 1,014 market strata housing units and 156 affordable rental units consistent with the city's affordable housing strategy. There's also 171 market rental units secured through rental tenure zoning, in addition to 784 meters squared of commercial space along Capstan Way. All of the affordable rental and 120 of the market rental units will be provided in the first phase of development, with the additional 51 market rental units being provided in phases 2, 3, and 4. The developer has a memorandum of understanding with success in place to manage the standalone affordable housing building consisting of 156 units in the first phase of development. In addition, there is a 1.34 acre of dedicated park and an additional 0.76 acres of public open space. The park is subject to a future park plan and process to design that park. The developer is responsible for the park plan and ultimate design. In addition, significant site servicing works and road improvements in the immediate area are proposed, including the creation of new roads and improvements to existing road frontages around the site. Creation of the project's also contributing towards the creation of off-site barn owl hunting habitat, and soil recovery from the site will be transferred to the city's Garden City lands for farm use. The project also includes construction of a new district energy utility plant for the development that will be transferred to Lulu Island Energy Corporation and connected to the larger district energy utility network. There's significant contributions towards the Capstan Station funding that will go towards transportation and mobility network integration in the immediate area. Voluntary contributions for community planning, city facilities, childcare, and public art are also part of the proposal. In addition, as outlined in the staff memo that you have, staff has secured the developer's commitment to provide a rooftop demonstration agricultural garden for urban agriculture. This facility is to be located on the roof of the affordable housing building in phase 1 of the development. Should the rezoning be granted third reading tonight, the developer will be required to submit a development permit application to the city to address the detailed form and character of the development. That concludes my comments / presentation. Staff will be available tonight to answer any questions this evening.
All right, thank you. There may be some more questions as we go along, so just stay tuned. Now, a lot of the speakers have obviously come off the other meeting or the other coordinates and come into this meeting. So we're going to, I think we've got, substantially we have them, although there may be a few that didn't make the transition. Unless council wishes to do something else, I suggest we just carry on and we'll get as many of the speakers as have made that transition. Okay? Is anybody opposed to that? Okay. All right. So the first speaker is Eva Chan. We've got Eva Chan Ip, but I think it's Eva Chan.
Hi. My name is Eva. I live in 4109 Gary Street, Richmond. As a property owner in Richmond, I would like to express my support for the development of proposed polygon, Talisman Park. To give you a quick background, I have lived in Richmond for 25 years now. When I first immigrated to Vancouver, I raised my 2 daughters alone, then aged 3 and 6. Now that my eldest daughter is married with children.
To the speaker, excuse me, could you turn on your video, please?
Oh, yeah. Turn on video. Okay.
Good, thank you. Please carry on.
Okay. 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 So, let's start again.
No, carry on.
Okay. So I just give you a quick background that I have lived in Richmond for 25 years now. When I first immigrated to Vancouver, I raised my 2 daughters alone, then aged 3 and 6. Now that my eldest daughter is married with 2 children, and my youngest has moved to Seattle to start a new life, I am looking to downsize and to stay in the community where I have connections. This new development is a great location and offers retail and commercial, so I can walk to get groceries and a future SkyTrain where I don't need a car. Our first home when we immigrated to Vancouver in 1997 was a polygon home. Many great memories were made in that home, and I have had a great experience living in a polygon home. I hope that this project will proceed so that I can feel confident as I downsize, while I also have access to amenities so my grandchildren can enjoy them.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So we'll go to the next speaker, Jack Guo. As you saw with the first speaker, we'll ask any speakers to not only turn on their microphones, but also to turn on their video. Go ahead. Jack Guo, we can't hear you.
Oh.
Okay, you're on.
Sorry about that. Okay, sorry, I was in the wrong room. Okay, there he goes. Well, thank you for giving me the chance to speak today. As a Richmond resident for over 15 years, it's exciting to see how our city is growing along the Canada Line stations. I'm here today to speak on my support for the Talisman Park project at Capstan Village. As a result of the pandemic, more people are moving away from the city of Vancouver to surrounding areas where housing costs is much lower in comparison. Even though a lot of us are currently working at home full-time, we will likely transition back to a hybrid model where we still need to go to the office a few times a week. The Talisman Park location will further maximize the value of the public transit infrastructure in Richmond to allow residents to conveniently commute to the airport, Vancouver downtown for work without relying on a personal vehicle. The Talisman Park location is also close to shops, restaurants, grocery stores. So residents can carry on with their lives on foot. I can see my younger sister living here during university while working part-time at a restaurant or shop nearby. I can also see my parents downsizing from their townhome and getting everything they need within walking distance. Local businesses in this area, I believe, will greatly benefit from the increase in residents as well. My impression of the city of Richmond is that we are a very practical city, and so there are many tangible values that this project will bring to us. The inclusion of affordable housing and market rentals will accommodate for a wide range of residents to share this space. A new park and outdoor space will also benefit residents from the surrounding areas while preserving some of the existing biodiversity. So this is an opportunity for more people to discover how comfortable and convenient it is to live here. This time, more housing supplies is desperately needed in our city. Condos are the typical entry points for first-time home buyers, so projects like this will be very attractive to my friends that are still working towards owning their first home. I hope we can move forward quickly with the development to meet the immediate demand for rental and strata units in Richmond. I know many people that have purchased homes built by Polygon, so I'm confident that they will be able to deliver on their commitments to our community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. The next speaker is Lurlin Taves, and I believe that's on Zoom. It's Lurlin's iPhone.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So you have no video. Go ahead.
Yeah. Wait, I'm trying. Wait. Yeah, good evening. My name is Lurlen, and I live at 6100 Alder Street in Richmond. I wish to speak to item 2 on agenda regarding Polygon Talisman Park project. I am a licensed practical nurse and a resident of Richmond. I own a townhome in which I reside, and several years ago, I purchased a condo, which I currently rent out. Housing prices are out of reach for most, so I purchased the condo so that my children can have a home of their own when they are old enough to do so. And I have a stable long-term tenant occupying the condo, which helped me with a mortgage payment while my children are growing up. I believe that Talisman project brings a good mix of unit sizes and housing types to Richmond, which will add more options for buyers and renters wishing to stay within the community. Many Richmond residents are getting older, and we need to encourage more homes to be built here so that they can have their children start family of their own here too. By approving more projects like Talisman in Richmond, which can also quickly grow the tax base so that the city can provide the services needed for the aging residents. I urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that input. Now, the next speaker on the list is Hanson Lau, and at this point, at least, it doesn't appear that Mr. Lau is with us on the line. So we'll try and come back to him, see if he's there. Now, the next one, Ahmed Omran, is there? Yes. Is he in the meeting? Yes. Okay, Ahmed Omran?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm Ahmed Omran. I'm the Director of Community Real Estate and Asset Management at Success. It's a nonprofit society with 2 housing buildings and 3 offices here in Richmond. And we offer a number of services to Richmond residents. I'm here to talk in support of the Talisman project. I've been working with Polygon for the last 2.5 or 3 years regarding the lemur building in that project. I'd like to support the project and support all lemur units to come in line as fast as we can. I'm happy to see in this project 156 lemur units that are built to the same quality as the rest of the project. I'm also very happy to see the market rental component and the condo component as well. There's lots of research and lots of experts that suggest the best way of out of our affordability crisis in DC is to build more housing of all types, and this project aims to do such that. So in that case, I'm very supportive of the project and all other projects like it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your submission. The next speaker is Robin Glover, who I believe also has joined the meeting. Robin? There you are.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I know a few others we're stuck in Zoom purgatory, so hopefully a few others will be let in shortly. So excuse me, I haven't heard the conversation to date, but I'll just pick up where I intended to start earlier. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. You've heard from me many times before on the merits of the Talisman Park proposal, so I'll keep it brief this evening. When Polygon purchased the land back in 2018, we did so with the assumption that if we complied with the city's approved OCP and the city's approved policies of the day, that we would have a viable project. As you know, over the last 4 years, the policy landscape regarding rental homes in Richmond, it has shifted, and our application has shifted as well. The proposal in front of you this evening delivers roughly 25% of all homes as lemur and market rental housing, and that exceeds all rental policy currently applicable to the project. In addition to the policy changes, we have received input from council, from staff, and from the residents of Richmond on other areas of concern with the project. And as a result, we have relocated and increased the size of the city park to retain more significant mature trees and retain important bird habitat. We have added a rooftop demonstration garden to the LEMR wood frame building and community gardens to the concrete phases. In short, all stakeholders involved with the project over the last 4 years have been heard and have had a hand in shaping the Talisman project. While council, staff, and Richmond residents may not have received everything they wished to see in the proposal, I would hope that all involved will feel some sense of satisfaction that they have extracted the maximum benefit for the residents of Richmond. We believe, and our Housing Minister David Eby would agree, that we need more housing of all types to meet the current demand. And if you're able to approve this project tonight, we would be on our way to welcoming the first families into the community in 3 years' time. Thank you.
All right. We have a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Brody, and thank you, Robin, for coming forward. So my question is how we can ensure that these units are actually occupied by the buyers who buy them. As you probably know, in 2020, Richmond came in number 2, collecting $8.7 million in speculation and vacancy tax, second only to the city of Vancouver. So what are you going to do as a company to ensure that these are, in fact, homes occupied by residents who own them as opposed to speculation?
Well, they could be occupied by renters.
I would like to see what Mr. Glover has to say about their plan to sell to people who will actually occupy these apartments.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Day. I'm assuming you're referring specifically to the market condo homes, as there is already a covenant and agreement in place that will address the market rental homes and the LEMR homes. What I can say is that Polygon has been working in Richmond for over 25 years now. We market to the local residential population. We don't market overseas. We don't have offices in other countries. We want to sell homes to people that live in the city of Richmond. Now, whether they own them and occupy them, or they own them and rent them out to Richmond residents, we don't control that. But I do know that you'll hear this evening from at least a couple of people, and I think you just heard from one, who owns a home in the city that they purchased as an investment. They rent it out in the interim until their children can move into it. And that is one component in a broad spectrum of housing that we need to be providing in the city.
So you're not going to make any effort to have like a rental tenure situation where things are rented in perpetuity? Because as we heard from Laren, her renter's only there until she needs it for her kids. So it's not forever. It's simply until it suits her to rent it out to, or give it to her kids to live in. So, okay, thank you for your answer.
All right, the next speaker is John Roston.
I had a question.
All right, Councillor Steves.
Yeah, I had a question for you, Robin. I asked at the last time we met at council about your demonstration garden. I see you're putting it in, and I wondered if you'd like to give the public some details on it, because of course it's something new that we've added to the project.
Through the chair to Councillor Steve, thank you for reminding me about that. As a rule, Polygon has not constructed rooftop gardens on top of wood frame construction. As I've said before, we are a company that firsthand experienced the leaky condo crisis, and we want to ensure that any rooftop access, we can make it bulletproof to avoid future problems for, in this instance, an owner and operator. So the challenges that we have to overcome are, how do we allow residents of the LEMR building rooftop access while still ensuring the integrity of the membrane below to keep maintenance, warranty, and repair costs down for that operator. So what we are proposing is rooftop access for all residents via elevator and stair. Elevator so that it is truly an accessible rooftop garden. It is roughly 1,000 square feet in size. If we use the metric of a garden plot of 48 inches by 40 inches by 16 inches deep, which is a module that the City of Richmond, I believe, has used successfully at the Garden City lands, then we could get in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 of those containers on the roof. They could be, each one of those containers could be gardened collectively. It could be cordoned off and gardened independently. In addition to the gardens themselves, we will have a potting table, tool shed, water, lighting, rainwater collection from the rooftop to provide irrigation to those gardens. And as I said, it will be elevator accessible, so makes getting soil, plant material, and other equipment easy from the parkade below.
Thank you very much.
All right, just before we go to John Roston, I jumped ahead. Written submissions, Mr. Clerk. Do you want to just give us a summary of the names?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I can read the names of each person who's submitted correspondence. We have correspondence from Alex Atkinson, Diane Bell, Yvonne Bell, Lorraine Bell, and Joan Lardon, all in one item. Sam Chen, Kelly Chang Shu, Frank Chu. We have two items from Donna Colpitz. We have an item from Jack Guo, Chris Ho, Susan Johnson, Hanson Lowe, Adam Lee, Harvey Lee, Sharon McGugan, Stuart Nagel, Gulpreet Nahal, Ken Nakadomari, John Roston, Kelly Starchuk, Ken Takuchi, Dee Whalen, Casey Wickham, Henry Wong, and Brandy Chan together on one item. We have an item from Peter Wong, Jim Wright, and Vlad Zakata.
Okay, is that it?
That's all.
We'll go to the next speaker, John Roston. John?
Hi there. I'm just trying to start my video, but it says the host has stopped it. There we go. One quick comment. I know a lot of the people who want to speak are in the waiting room rather than in the meeting, and they cannot hear what the other speakers are saying, and a number of them aren't too happy about that. So,
Sir, I'm very sorry. You're in your 10 minutes. You want to get going.
okay. You have our written submission, so I'll just briefly summarize it. The Richmond Rental Housing Advocacy Group would like you to upzone the Polygon Talisman property from the current single-family zoning to 100% multifamily rental housing. We also want you to provide significant incentives to anyone who develops that property for 100% rental. The property is one of the very few in the city center where a sufficiently large amount of rental housing can be built to change the rental marketplace, meet a significant portion of the rental demand, stabilize rents, and provide rental security. That is only possible through the economies of scale realized from very large rental projects. You cannot get the same benefit from small pockets of rental with multiple owners scattered amongst this and other properties, which is where you are now. You need a large amount of rental housing now, not 20 years from now. This is an excellent project that's shovel-ready and could ramp up quickly. You only need to switch the strata condo units to rental tenure units. The obstacle is that the developer wants to hire profits from strata condos. It was suggested at prior council meetings that the developer paid a very high price for the land, as though it were already zoned for strata condos. If so, that was a major mistake. A 100% rental project will be profitable, but it won't reimburse them for paying too much for the land. That's unfortunate. They are very nice people, but they're also wealthy enough to absorb the loss on the land. Some councillors have been concerned that they may let the land sit vacant and wait for a future council to rezone it for condos. As Mr. Ersick has explained with reference to other properties, the land must be rezoned for 100% rental, or the developers will keep proposing condo projects instead of building rental. With 100% rental zoning, the only option is to absorb the loss on the land and either build rental or sell it to someone who will. The federal government financing through CMHC will save them millions over 10 years if the project is 100% rental. CMHC will finance 100% of the housing space cost and 75% of the amenity construction, such as green roofs. They can charge market rents provided the city grants incentives like the ones we recommended in our submission, which is removing the required $12 million contribution to the capstan station. After all, the station is already fully funded, and using the revitalization tax exemption to delay collecting the municipal tax on the value of the new construction for 10 years, as has been done in Kelowna. This is also worth millions. They will continue to pay the property tax on the land, so there is no reduction in the city's current revenue. The basic question to be answered today is to whether you will grab a rare opportunity to provide the rental housing so desperately needed in Richmond, or whether you will instead choose to bail out a wealthy developer who has paid too much for the land. It's really as simple as that. Thank you very much.
We have a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roston, for your information. You mentioned rental tenure, and that's when, in your mind, that this project could be 100% rental. Who would buy something like that? Like, would it be a pension fund, or who would be interested in a long-term 100% rental opportunity?
Large pension plans. So I know you have mentioned the Canada Pension Plan in previous meetings. They are buying very large projects. They can't find enough of them in Canada. They recently bought one in Brazil. Also insurance companies. So 100% rental projects in Vancouver right now are being constructed and owned by insurance companies. And that's because they sell annuities, and that requires the sort of long-term income you get from 100% rental. And they partner with rental developers. So these are not condo developers, they're people who specialize in rental development. And what they do is they both build the project and then they manage it afterwards. So they make sure that the project is constructed properly and in a way that it's going to last, because they're the ones who are going to have to worry about the maintenance, as opposed to a condo developer who sells the condo and steps out of the picture.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. The next speaker then is Vivian Louis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julian Louis, and I live at 12633 number 2 Road in Richmond. I have lived and worked in Richmond for 15 years.
Ma'am,
I know the area.
Could you turn on your video, please? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I've lived and worked in Richmond for 15 years, and I know the area of the Talisman Park project well and love the convenience and accessibility with supermarkets, restaurants, and dessert places so nearby. You can get around the shop for Western and Eastern merchandises or taste cuisines from around the world within walking distance. While I'm enjoying the natural beauty at my residence at Steveston, I'm also envisioning a life without having to drive under the more frequent extreme weather conditions experienced by BC recently. And at the same time, I can do my part in protecting the environment, which the project will help me to achieve. With my BC work schedule, I have been looking for a place closer to work without having to sacrifice the me time when I can just relax and appreciate the green space around me. This project can offer me the option. It is also where I could see myself spending my retirement life some years after. Being able to live an independent life in a familiar community is very important to a mature individual because change is scary, unless it is changing for the better. One last reason is my sister, who returned to Asia some years ago, will be moving back to live with me in a few years' time. I'm sure she will appreciate sticking with a similar lifestyle as what she's having now. The convenient, great cuisines, wonderful shopping experience, and also less driving and more active life. There's everything she's expecting from her upcoming relocation. So please approve the Talisman Park project so that I can start planning for my future in this wonderful community soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The next speaker is Bonnie Lee. Bonnie, there you are.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Bonnie, and I am currently living at 9288 Ahmed Road in Richmond. I'm very excited to hear about the Talisman Park development and am in support of this project for various reasons. For one, having lived in Richmond for over a year and a half, I find it to be very warm and a welcoming city. All of the new developments add to Richmond's uniquely clean and modern environment. Talisman Park's convenient location will also enable more working professionals like myself, to take advantage of the close proximity to the SkyTrain line and other great nearby amenities. I believe this is very important in reducing congestion on Richmond streets while emanating Metro Vancouver's overall sustainability image. Having moved into Richmond from Vancouver, I firmly believe there is a need for multifamily housing in this part of Greater Vancouver. Talisman Park would be a great opportunity to attract new residents that would add diversity to our already wonderful community. By far the most interesting is Talisman Park's proposed landscape design. The plan includes the retainment of many trees, as well as plenty of green space for the enjoyment of outdoor activities. The space will also be developed for flexible usage, such as for community events. I currently live in the West Canby area and would really enjoy and appreciate an area that allows the community members to be brought together to enjoy future outdoor events and activities. I currently live in a polygon home and can speak to the quality of their buildings and design. Their functional building layouts foster a strong sense of community. I hope that you guys can consider the Talisman Park project. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my support for this project.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. The next speaker is Laura Galanders. Is she there?
No, she was, and now she's not. So I went on to Michael.
Okay, so it's, I think that's Michelle Lee. Next speaker is Michelle Lee.
Hello.
Hello.
And you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm Michelle Lee. I live in Richmond. I am not being paid to make this announcement. An earlier speaker made the point that I am going to make in one sentence, that she had to buy her children a condo as they can no longer live here. Not everyone can afford that for their children. And in fact, this emphasizes the point that we need more rental housing to address our housing crisis. It made me so sad to hear her say that. No one should have to struggle in their life to make sure that their children can live in the same city as them. It is horrendous that this is the situation we are in, and it makes me want to cry. I have written all of you to tell you about the horrendous situations I have seen the children that I work with live in. It is not okay. We need to do better. Housing is not a commodity. Housing is a human right. In 2019, the Canadian government introduced the National Housing Strategy Act that required government to further the progressive realization of the right to adequate housing. The Act states the policy is to recognize that housing is essential to the inherent dignity and well-being of the person and to build sustainable and inclusive communities. The UN Rapporteur on the Right to Housing, Leilani Farha, has commented, the Government of Canada has shifted its approach to the right to housing to one that recognizes housing as a fundamental human right essential to the dignity and well-being of the person. Over the years in Richmond, I have constantly heard of families that struggle to find long-term, safe, and affordable housing. Many are living in situations that are woefully inadequate and compromise their ability to have stability in their lives. As a teacher, some of the living situations I've heard are truly heartbreaking. We have to stop passing the buck and say that other levels of government need to address this issue. It is our collective problem that we need to solve together. Richmond's updated housing strategy says that it was established to ensure that Richmond remains a livable, sustainable community and that the city continues to take an active role to maintain, create, and facilitate diverse and affordable housing choices for current and future residents. Last year, nearly 1,000 Richmond households were on a wait list for affordable housing. How can you be blind to this fact? As a community member, as a teacher, and as a parent, I implore you to think hard before giving this project a pass. I have spoken many times about this issue in Richmond, and I am so disappointed that you think it's okay that 10% or 20% is enough for affordable housing or for rental housing. You can vote for something better. You have the ability to shape the future of Richmond, to ensure that all residents have access to adequate, fair, and sustainable housing. Richmond has the opportunity to be a leader here, showing the rest of the province and the country what is possible when a progressive city council thinks beyond the box. And when we put residents' needs over corporations' needs. Before I close, I have two things I want to ask you. Can you say to yourself that you did all you can to assist families that are struggling in Richmond? Two, can you also say that you did your part as a member of government to ensure that the fundamental right of housing is upheld in Richmond? I want you to think hard about that, because this is heartbreaking to me, that we keep giving away land to developers and we just give whatever they want instead of what we need. We need housing for residents. Thank you.
We have a question from Councillor Day.
Hello, Ms. Nee. Thank you very much. I had forgotten about the Canadian Housing Act requiring that homes are a right, not a commodity. Thank you for reminding me of that. Of the people that you work with through your work as a teacher and an advocate, are there any that could afford a $720,000 starter condo?
I'm sure that there are probably some that can, but it's the ones that can't that break my heart. Okay. And I've shared some of those stories with all of you privately, and I don't want to raise those issues now, but some of them are even far worse than what I've shared with you, and it is heartbreaking.
So what happens to them since they can't buy and they can't find anything to rent? Where do they end up?
Well, I've heard of, so some of the situations are very precarious, where families have to move, where they don't have stability in terms of what school they can go to. And the thing that it comes down to is when they are spending $2,000 a month on rent, then that means things like food and other supplies that their children need are sacrificed. So yes, I work with kids who are food insecure, and that makes me really upset knowing that their family has to struggle just to put a roof over their head.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am, for your submission. The next speaker is Deidre Whalen, who is here with us tonight. And Hanson Lau has now come online, so we'll admit him into the meeting. We'll admit him into the meeting to speak after Ms. Whalen. Now, just hold it. Is her microphones on?
Sorry about that.
And is there a video?
Yes.
Okay, there you are. There you are, and we can hear you.
There I am. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Deirdre Whalen. I have lived in Richmond for 47 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. My address is 13631 Blundell Road, and I'd like to express my opposition to the proposal of Polygon to rezone the area around the Garden City Urban Forest. I know I usually come and talk to you about affordable housing, but I'm also here to say that this development does not have any affordable housing. I want you to understand that low-end market rental are market rental. They're listed in the affordable housing strategy as affordable, but they are not affordable. They are market rental. So let's get that straight. The more that we examine what they call LEMR or LEMR, the more questions that we have. And I'm glad that you're going to be doing a LEMR review because there are a lot of questions to be answered. So I'm going to talk about the Garden City Urban Forest. It's one of the last urban forests in Metro Vancouver and the last farm field remaining in this densely populated neighborhood of Capstan Station. Back in the old days, remember I've been here 47 years, it was City Hall elected officials and it was their planners that decided how the city would grow and were not hampered by the needs of developers. They were influenced by the Garden City movement, and anyone who's a city planner knows about Garden City movement. There are garden cities all over the world, and our city is no different. It is a method of urban planning in which self-contained communities are surrounded by green belts, containing proportionate areas of residences, industry, and agriculture. Garden City planning aimed to capture the primary benefits of a countryside environment and a city environment while avoiding the disadvantages of both. In recognition of the fact that Richmond, or Lulu Island, back in the old days, was primarily a farming community, elected city officials used the Garden City planning approach throughout Richmond. This is witnessed by looking at some of the older neighborhood hubs like Steveston, Seafair, Shelmont, Cambie, Broadmoor. They used the Garden City concept to develop town-like hubs where one could get from the residences to services to amenities and to nature equally. Garden City Road was meant to be the urban boundary that opened onto nature. Beyond that perimeter, city residents could escape the busyness of city life and they could enjoy nature. Farmers were close to the markets that they served, and city dwellers were close to forests and the flora and fauna within. As a living example, if you go out to Garden City Urban Forest at night, you can see owls and coyotes. They're out hunting for mice. And let's remember that mice are vermin. And if we have raptors and we have coyotes in that area, they can keep the vermin population down in these densely peopled areas. And they deserve a place to live too. Capstan Station is already crowded with thousands of condos and thousands of residents. What is done, but why would the city allow developers to build more condos on the only space of natural respite that these residents have? Why are you considering paving over fields and bulldozing trees to build housing, including these low-end market rentals that does not serve the people who wish to live, work, and play in Richmond? And by the way, the motto of Richmond, live, work, and play, comes directly from the Garden City movement. To think that this city has moved so far away from its roots in creating garden cities on this small island is sad. And it's especially sad when you're contemplating destroying the last urban forest in Richmond during a climate crisis. I needn't remind you, this is an election year. I will be joining others who will want to hear from sitting councillors who are incumbents and from 2022 municipal candidates on how they championed the preservation of the Garden City Urban Forest. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. The next speaker is Hanson Lau. Hanson, if you could turn on your video and your microphone.
Okay. Dear Mayor and Council members, my name is Hanson Lau, and I'm reaching out to you to express my support for the Polygon Talisman Park rezoning application. Okay. If you want to see my face.
Just kidding.
I have lived in Richmond for more than 20 years, and I'm not running for office, okay? And my office is just across the street from the proposed development site. I recently noticed that the project has applied for council's approval for more than 3 years already. Considering the size of the proposed development and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, I must commend the city staff on bringing the project to this public hearing. In my opinion, the proposal for Talisman Park includes all the pieces necessary to create a truly friendly neighborhood with a community feel. City park, public open spaces, amenities, commercial space, and proximity to the future Capstan SkyTrain station. These ingredients are a recipe for success. All that being said, car use is still a necessity in Richmond, and I would not want to see council drastically reduce the parking ratio. In addition, the proposal indicates a rooftop garden. While this may be an innovative initiative, it may not be a practical option after a few years, as the root system of the plants will eventually damage the envelope of the building. This exact problem has been ongoing at the Pacific Plaza on Canby Road for more than 15 years. Having experienced the issue myself, I certainly do not wish that upon any future property owners. In conclusion, it is my opinion that Polygon has established itself as a respectable and responsible builder of residential and commercial units in Richmond. And I believe the City of Richmond would consider this project favorably going forward. Thank you for your attention. My name is Hanson Lau. I live in 3571 Pleasant Street, Richmond.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The next speaker is Eva Chan. I may have mispronounced that. I apologize if I did.
No, that's fine. I also want to express my support for the development. I think the builder is reputable and responsible as well, and trying to meet all the conditions and requirements set up by the city. I think definitely more housing is needed, and for all types of members within the community. There are people that have the means to buy but can't find the type of building or structure that they need. There are people that want to rent and simply can't find a place to rent. I relocated here from Alberta, and it took me 4 months to be able to find a place in Richmond. And because we work in Richmond, we made every effort to rent in Richmond. There are a lot of people that we work with that would love to work in the city and live in the city, but simply don't have enough options. I also think that there's a definite sustainability component to the project. Trees are going to be saved. There will be a whole bunch of different options for residents so that they don't have to use their car, but that can use the SkyTrain. And I think a development like this will also build community and create more of a city where people can see themselves staying in and retiring in and embracing it as their own, and also putting all of their resources into the city as well. Not just working here, but spending everything somewhere else. Sorry, it's the first time I'm doing this, but I really do think more housing is needed, and I think if we want people to move here and work here and stay here, it's what's required. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Next speaker, John Bjornsson. Any sign? No. Okay, well, no sign of John Bjornsson. We'll see if he's here later. So the next speaker is Jack Mullany. Jack, you want to turn on your mic and your video? We'd appreciate it.
Am I with you?
Yeah, you are now. Yes, sir, Jack.
Sorry, it's been difficult getting to this meeting tonight on the computer. Hey, Mayor Brody and members of council, my name is Jack Mullany. I've been asked today to speak to council on behalf of Polygon Homes, the applicant for the development of their Talisman Park project at Cambie in Garden City. There may be many voices here that could be for or against the Talisman Park project as presently designed. But the design is not the purpose of my addressing council tonight. I'm here to recommend this developer as a provider of quality market and affordable housing for residents of Richmond. I was a member of the development committee of the Richmond Kiwanis Housing Kiwanis Towers on Mineral Boulevard. As such, I had the opportunity to work with Polygon Homes and the City of Richmond staff to develop the financial feasibility and design for the construction of 296 one-bedroom units of affordable housing for seniors on Mineral Boulevard. Polygon have been a developer in Richmond for many years. From my experience with the Towers project, I would say to council they are a responsible developer that will plan and complete a project as agreed with city planning to provide a quality product for Richmond residents now and for those that will come. Those of council that support this project, in my opinion, know the final result of the Talisman Park designed by Polygon will be an asset to the community and to the City of Richmond. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this developer.
Councillor Day, you've got a question?
Thank you very much, Melanie, for waiting in the chat room. I know that was difficult to get in tonight. So I'm really pleased that you came in tonight because you were saying that you were involved in the Kiwanis project where there was senior housing built, and Polygon did a fantastic job of building that building. How quickly did that fill up, and do you feel there's a greater need for housing for seniors?
Yes, I'm sure. Unfortunately, I'm not still connected with the group, but I know that they have since got involved with picking up additional affordable housing in other developments of Polygon. And there's a demand all the time. There is a waiting list that I don't think we'll ever be able to completely fill. I hope that answers your question.
I figured that's what you were going to say.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks very much, Jack. Next speaker is Alex Sagert. Any sign of Alex Sagert? Okay, no sign of Alex Sagert. Next speaker is Jerome Dickey. Jerome? Jerome?
Video? Want video? I can't turn the video on.
Well, if you don't have it, then just go ahead.
I've got video, but...
Just go ahead.
My name's Jerome Dickey. I live at 9280 Glen Island Drive. As a longtime resident of Richmond, I'm very disappointed to see some councillors and mayor who have not demonstrated the courage to vote for change to address the very real needs residents have expressed to you, the need for affordable housing. It is time to recognize this issue as a human right for people in our community. Lives are at stake. Our future as a diverse and vibrant city is at stake. We know how these housing challenges are complex and other levels of government have a key role to play, while local government is more restricted in policy options that are available. Increasing the requirement for rental housing, especially non-market rental housing, is an important first step in the right direction. Yet only councillors Day, Wolf, and one other showed leadership on this. It is only one step, but a needed, important first step. Let's not get too tied up in specific percentages, rather agree on a number that represents a serious step forward to addressing this issue. Is this a big change for developers? Maybe. Yet there needs to be an increase in rental housing, all types. No developer is going to like unexpected change in policy forced upon them. City housing policy needs updating to change with today's situation. Priority should be input from all stakeholders and transparency throughout, so all those with vested interests, financial or otherwise, can see a better path forward. This could include a mechanism by which a percentage of non-market rentals sees scheduled increases over a multi-year time frame, yet provides some flexibility so adjustments to it within a small range can be made in consideration of unique or other specific project considerations. An advisory board with all stakeholders should be formed to work with city staff in exploring new approaches and options. A citizens' assembly for housing, if you want. This developer, by no fault of their own, is in the spotlight for this change. Luck of the draw? It's never easy to be first in leading change, whether your role as a city councillor or a developer. I trust you as councillors will not shriek from this generational challenge in front of you, but will rise to the occasion. This is a crisis, and we need aggressive change to our approach to address needs of residents. This is a housing crisis. Changes need to be balanced with a review of a process, a meaningful review process, where key stakeholders are given a voice to engage in dialogue. I'm sure rarely does any level of government get implementation of a policy right the first time. So be willing to listen to how the implementation proceeds, and most importantly, be willing to make changes to improve it. When we can change systems of how we operate, too often we ignore the unintended consequences. Yet we know failing to act to increase rental housing is damaging our community. Pushing more residents to the margins of living is something that impacts every one of us in some way. Elected councillors and mayor, you need to show courage for change in the face of those who will resist and default to the status quo. Please step up and lead us forward. Thank you.
Councillor Day, you've got a question.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dickey. I like the idea of an advisory board and a citizens' assembly. Those are brilliant ideas. Before that, you mentioned, though, that you could see a percentage increase in rental housing like every year. Could you just explain a little bit more about that? Like, would like an automatic rental increase, or like how do you see that?
Yes, I think developers are looking for clarity around where the city is going. And if it keeps jumping all over, it's difficult. And that's really not fair to developers either. There needs to be a built-in vision going forward, if you want, with some increase in the number that clearly provides that definitive path forward that gives certainty to developers going forward. We just can't stick with the status quo. We can't either jump around. So let's get clear on it. Do the work necessary and build a path forward that increases that rental housing.
Are you talking about like an increase that we have this year of 10% to 15%? So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, whatever the percentage, I don't want to get tied up in the exact percentages. I think there's a lot of variables that go into that, but it has to be an increase. We know we don't have enough rentals now, and especially non-market, and we need to build that forward going forward into an increased amount. How steep that percentage increases, I'll leave it up to you. You're the pros, you're the experts here, but make it happen because the city's counting on you.
Well, okay, I just want you to know that we increased it from 10% to 15% this last year, and we're also taking a look at the rental policy. So there you are.
Yeah, is it enough?
Okay.
Yeah, is it enough? 15%? Not sure.
Okay, I thought you just wanted more, and I was just telling you we're getting more. Anyway, the next speaker is, let's see now. It was going to be Adam Cossack, but Catherine Van Vliek is going to step in on behalf of Adam Cossack.
Yes, thank you. Just trying to start my video, but the host has stopped it. There we go. Hi there. Thank you for the time. I'm speaking on behalf of Jason Broderick, a Richmond resident and business owner of Trail Appliances. My name is Catherine Van Vliek, and I am a member of the senior leadership team at Trail Appliances. Dear Mayor and Council, My name is Jason Broderick, and I'm writing to express my support for the Polygon Talisman Park rezoning application. I've been a resident of Richmond for 41 years, and I am also the owner of a local business, Trail Appliances. Trail Appliances employs more than 600 people in British Columbia, with our head office based in Richmond, employing staff in a variety of roles, including finance, marketing, administration, sales, purchasing, technology, and customer service. As a Richmond resident and business owner, I am concerned that there's not enough supply of all types of housing to meet the desired needs of my employees. I would like to see my staff with the ability to live in the city of Richmond, close to where they work, rather than commuting from other municipalities, so that they can have a better quality of life and spend their hard-earned dollars here in Richmond. The mixed-use proposal for this master plan would provide a healthy living environment for our for our employees and their families. I hope you will find your way to approving this project. Respectfully, Jason Broderick.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your submission. The next speaker, I believe, is here in person, Catherine Mccreary. Okay, please come forward.
I just had a list of notes here. I'm trying to. There we go. Good evening. My name is Catherine Mccreary. I grew up in Richmond. I was raised in Richmond, and I currently live in Vancouver. I came here to speak tonight because I'm concerned about the affordable housing component of the project and the market component of the project. I've seen as the project has progressed, you've gradually increased some of the numbers, which is a step in the right direction. However, I note that for the market component, there's no restriction on tenant incomes or rental rates for these units. So I guess it's whatever the market will bear at that point in time. Whereas other developments, I've seen some restrictions on tenant incomes and rental rates. So I just wanted to point that out. In terms of the LEMUR rates, the LEMUR rates staff present are LEMUR rates of July 24th, 2017. These are quite outdated. In your low-end market rental LEMUR rate unit policy, you state that all LEMUR unit rate units have set maximum rents and maximum incomes for eligible tenants, which are adjusted annually. So I'm not too sure why LEMUR rates that are reflected of today's current rates are reflected in this document, and it just says they may change, so at some point they're obviously going to be higher than they are now. So that was just a red flag for me. Other concerns I have are that the LEMUR units are in a standalone building, which is a wood construction, which is fine, but the developer is saving money by building a wood construction versus concrete. They're also saving money by reducing the parking restrictions by 25%, which works out to about 39 parking spots that are being reduced by. So I was just thinking, at the end of the day, when some sort of agreement is formed with Success to own and operate this particular building, is there an opportunity to somewhat freeze LEMUR rates or provide a better situation for the people wanting to live in the affordable housing units that the city markets? That's all I basically want to say.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Karina Reed.
Hi, my video is stopped by the, anyways, the video is not working. It's starting now. Hi, everyone. My name is Karina Reed. Thanks so much for having me. I am in Houston. I've lived in Houston for 10 years. I live on the unceded traditional territory of the Hunkaneeman language Musqueam speaking people. I'm here to talk about the Polygon project and the need for more affordable housing in Richmond. Yes, we all have heard and talked about the housing crisis for a long time. And Michelle Lee brought up a good point about housing is a human right. It is. And when you're not providing adequate housing for people, it is a form of structural violence. And structural violence in society is the form of systems that oppress people, that don't allow them to meet their basic needs. So this Polygon project, 24% is going to affordable housing. It's not good enough. We need more affordable housing. The last list I had from BC Housing, which was May of 2021, there were 1,555 people on that list. And the majority of those people on the list were actually seniors and families. So to me, when you're giving 156 units, that's not enough for our seniors, and that is not enough for our families. We know in Richmond we have the highest poverty rate in the lower mainland for our seniors, 20% compared to other cities that are at, Vancouver's 15%. We've got New West at 11% in poverty for our seniors. So, 494 people on the BC housing wait list is not okay. And we must do better. And so, if you haven't been out in the community understanding the homeless crisis, I suggest everybody go down to Turning Point and at that new location across from the ERC and talk to some of the people there if they thought 156 rental units in a building with over 1,300 units is okay. No, it's not okay. And to Dee's point, Lemur housing is not affordable housing. We need to be looking at housing that's based on income. We need to invest in getting more BC housing units available and co-ops. Gosh, the last time we had a co-op built in Richmond was 1996. I'm a renter. I live in a co-op. There's no way I would ever be able to afford to buy any home in Richmond. So I'm asking that tonight, when you look at your options, and this is a big project, this will shape our city in so many different ways, that you really, really look at, are you making the best decision for the future of our city? And for the people that are struggling the most, we have seen the largest amount of homeless people living in Richmond, and we need to do better. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to talk to someone who actually lives in a co-op because you have an insight, and I understand through your work that you meet a lot of people. If we deny this proposal tonight, the land could sit empty for 10 years. Is it worth it?
You know what? I don't think it'll stay empty because there's too much happening and too many developers that will. Look at Vancouver's recent 100% housing project. People are, like to your point on the pensions, there are people that will buy 100% rental housing units. These are bold actions for Richmond City Council, and we can do it. And at the end of the day, when everybody on council goes home to their homes that they own, ask yourselves, did you do the right thing for all the renters out there, all the young families out there, and all our seniors? I mean, you can spend a day at the Richmond Food Bank, and the amount of deliveries I'm delivering to people, and the people that I'm delivering to as a volunteer there are seniors. So no, we need to do better, and if it ends up being empty for some time, then that's the right decision.
All right, thank you. The next speaker is Cohen Nagel. Okay, go ahead, Cohen. Go ahead, Cohen.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Actually, Renetta. It's Renetta Nagel. So my name is Renetta Nagel, and I've lived in Richmond for 30 years. I am in support of the Polygon development because from what I understand, there are affordable housing units and market rental units. And as well, there is a proposed green space. I understand that the people are wishing things to stay as they were in the old days, and of course, I respect that. But we have to be open to change and what is doable and desirable. The truth is that there are numerous people who can afford to purchase apartments or condos like this in Richmond. And it's also true that property which is close to Vancouver, close to the airport, close to SkyTrain, is prime real estate. Polygon has to know their audience and accommodate a variety of needs, which I believe they are doing. I have two sons who share an older condo in Richmond, and they each want to purchase their own condo and would like to stay in Richmond, where they grew up, where they're familiar with the schools, the sports programs, parks, and recreation facilities, and perhaps raise their own families here. But they can't afford a house, so condos are needed for them and for people there in their age group. Richmond is growing in popularity and population, so I think more housing is needed. And I support the Polygon development because I like how the project offers affordable housing and market rental units. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Next speaker, Jennifer Burtnick. Any sign? No sign of Jennifer. Next speaker then is Peggy Johnson. Yeah, you're on mute there, Peggy.
Thank you. I don't think my video is working, but that matters not. You can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Peggy Johnson. I live in Dayton Avenue here in Richmond. Let me start by saying I'm in favor of creating this new Polygon Talisman community. I'm a longtime resident of Richmond as well, having been raised in Richmond when my family moved here in 1959. I was lucky to upsize over time with 3 different home purchases in Richmond here over time, and my family was raised here. In fact, Mr. Steve, you were my grade 7 science teacher in 1969, and I would like you to please upgrade my B that you gave me on that rather extraordinary science project that I did, and I deserve a far higher mark than that.
Come on, Harold, be more generous.
Harold. I've watched this community grow from a township with multiple cow pastures to the multifaceted city it is today, and I'm proud to call it my home. I remember one of the very first townhome projects near my then junior high school, Burnett. My father commented that this would never work. People would not want to live with attached walls. Needless to say, that was an era of plentiful land and another generational thought process. I feel so fortunate to call this centrally located, beautiful city of Richmond my longtime home. We need to allow more people to live on this finite amount of land that we have on our island, and multifamily homes serve that purpose. I don't wish my kids to need to be moving to outlying areas to find affordability. I feel strongly we need more housing, and Polygon has a solid reputation of well-built housing and a well-established reputation even within our own community, let alone the entire Lower Mainland. Looking at their website, they've built over 30,000 homes since 1980. Isn't that who we want to partner with as a development here in our city? I love that Polygon creates whole master planned communities, including common areas and parks. They speak of the trees they're saving, the parks that they're including. I'm sure they're pressured by the councils just like you are, and thank heavens we have you to look after that kind of thing for us. I see their customer service trucks on the road. I know they support the people they sell their homes to. Without sufficient housing, keeping up with our immigration and desirability, where are the kids going to live? House prices are spinning out of control due to lack of availability. I know kids that have bid on multiple houses only to be outbid consistently. I like that Richmond is holding Polygon's feet to the fire, so to speak, to provide market and low rental housing. My understanding is 24%, listening to the speakers that are speaking tonight, which is significantly higher, I'm sure, than when they purchased the land many years ago. And I'm sure it was a much lower rate. I think Malcolm Brody said that it's raised to 15%. So 24% is a reasonable compromise, if you will. I do recognize that large developers cannot be made to solve all of the housing crisis. They're a for-profit company. Polygon is a for-profit company that provides thousands of jobs through all arms of their development. Those very employees that they hire, much as the fellow from Trail has his 600, they have their thousands. Those are the consumers that are paying the taxes and are buying the homes. We have to have jobs for them. And Polygon is a very responsible employer. So in summary, one, we need more housing. Simple and straightforward fact, delaying approval delays buildings. I think Ms. Day, you suggested it might be 10 years before this whole process could possibly go forward with another option. From an eco point of view, Polygon is providing a master plan community, maximizing proximity to rapid transit, and forward thinking with the small things like EV chargers and car share. Commercial space helps with walkability. Polygon is a well-known and respected developer with customer care, certainly the devil we know. The city is demanding a reasonable market and rent. The city is demanding a reasonable market and rental housing component. I don't think we can expect Polygon to come up with a 100% non-market situation. Richmond needs a variety of housing types and size being addressed. We need housing so families can grow and stay in their community from their early 20s to family support to downsizing. This addresses those very needs. Richmond is a multicultural, multi-economic community. Our limited land needs to be available to all and shared as a community. Thank you for your time listening to me.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. The next speaker is Yvonne Bell, who I believe is here. Yvonne?
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Bell. I live at 10431 Mortfield Road here in Richmond, V7A2W1. Dear Mayor, City Councillors, and City Clerk, I submitted this. I strongly oppose this rezoning application. City Council and the Planning Department have rezoned and changed the area bordered by Sea Island Way to the north, Garden City to the east, Canby Road on the south, and 3 Road on the west. So they've changed this from urban forest to mid-rise and high-rise developments. I grew up in the area. So all of this is now new homes. I'm quite surprised by the past speakers because there are a lot of homes going up in this area, a lot. So when the past speakers are saying we need new homes, Richmond is building new homes every day. Mostly I hear people say we're building too many new homes. So, well, it's more too many high rises. City planners have called this area Capstan Village. I found this quite an interesting title. The definition of village is a group of houses and associated buildings, larger than a hamlet and smaller than a town, situated in a rural area. Rural meaning relating to or characteristic of the countryside. So the land in question for rezoning is the last bit of countryside that Capstan Village has. The last urban forest and farm fields in the Capstan Village area. All the other forests and fields have been developed into high rises and mid rises with inner city parks with no mature trees for shade, but a lot of cement paths. Repeatedly in the news, I hear how important it is for cities to save local food sources, like farm fields, like that is in right in the middle of this development, of the property, I should say, that they have bought. So we're told how important it is to save local food sources, farm fields, and local forests as one of the ways to combat climate change. Last year, BC experienced the catastrophic effects of climate change firsthand. Forest fires burning throughout the province, the town of Lytton burning to the ground, a heat dome in the Lower Mainland responsible for hundreds of deaths, province-wide flooding causing millions of dollars in damage, and creating widespread destruction of highways, dikes, water treatment plants, and other very important infrastructure. Climate change is here. We've been talking about it for 20 years here at City Hall, over and over again, all the time. It's here. Scientists, economists, Indigenous elders, and academics all say we have to stop cutting down our forests, including our urban forests, and that we have to save every bit of arable land that we have for local food security. They say that all governments, federal, provincial, municipal, cities, and individuals must be part of the solution to stop climate change, just as we are all part of the solution to stop the spread of COVID-19. Please do not allow the last of the Cambie urban forest and Capstan fields to be rezoned into mid-rises and high-rises. The birds need the forests and fields, the people need the forests and fields, and the planet needs the forests and fields. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
All right, thank you. We have a question from Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. My comment and question, one is I could hear every word you said through your mask, so I appreciate you demonstrating how well that works in council chambers. Secondly, my question is you have probably spent more time in the specific area in question than anyone who's spoken or anyone on council. You have actually been set foot in that area. Could you speak a little bit directly to what is presently there? Because we've heard from about 20 speakers who don't know the area that well, and based on what council will decide later tonight, I think I'd leave it to you to tell us what's there right now.
So what is there is a farm field, 2 farm fields that have never been sprayed. So they're organic farm fields as we speak now. And you can watch the owls hunting there at night. As Dee Whalen said, my sister and I have gone down to watch them. And there are acres of mature forests. What the polygon application is suggesting is to save a fringe of trees that are just on Cambie Road. The rest will be all cut down. Originally, they were going to cut down all the trees until
You're just
we
being
complained.
asked, what's there now?
Okay. So what the trees there now would be approximately 80 or 90 years old is the trees that are there. Diameters of the trees that are going to be cut, I would say 20 inches. That's a huge cedar hedge in the back of the property that's beside the church will be all gone. And it is half of the mature forest, more than half of the mature forest will be gone when this development goes through as it stands now.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am, for your presentation.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Evan Dunphy.
Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm calling in to support this rezoning application. I have a great respect for my fellow speakers and absolutely agree that we need to do what we can to have a massive increase in our rental housing stock and housing of all kinds, for that matter, to confront our housing crisis. I, however, don't believe that demanding a few more units out of this project 2 years into a rezoning that meets the OCP, that meets the city center area plan objectives in every way, is the right way to do it. While I believe our OCP falls woefully short of being equipped to meet our climate and housing needs within these crises, I do agree with Councillor McNulty from the previous council meeting when he said that he believes that council has squeezed everything they could from Polygon in this project, and they've come back several times updating the plans to council's wishes, and there's just not much more we can hope for in that regard, and I agree with that sentiment. I don't understand where this additional rental housing that some councillors are demanding would come from. My understanding, which admittedly might be flawed, I'm no expert, but 6-story wood frame buildings pencil out for rental housing. That's what we're getting in this project in phase 1, or with significant density bonuses for concrete or CLT buildings that are much, much higher than what we can actually build in Richmond can make it work, and that's not an option for us. The staff report notes this explicitly to the point. Richmond simply cannot give enough density to pencil out rental housing in these building forms with our height limits. I think it's amazing that we're already seeing 25% of the total units in this project being rental, and they're going to be the first units built. I think that's a major win. If council wants to look for additional ways to gain more units, some of the things that are outlined in the staff report include that are limitations for Polygon parking requirements. There's already been a reduction in parking requirements, which is great, but that's a limiting factor. Polygon's noted that any additional units will require another level of parking, and they say that's not feasible. So why not see if you can get more units if there's less parking? I personally would like to see the council go a step further and eliminate parking minimums altogether, like many cities around Canada and around the world are doing, but that's beyond the scope of this conversation. I want to make it very clear that I believe we desperately need lots of rental housing. But the way to do it isn't through taking multiple years to squabble over a spot rezoning in the city center. We need more rental properties everywhere in the city. I would strongly encourage council to read the recent Large Labs report that was submitted to the City of Vancouver on point access blocks or single-stair buildings. If Richmond wants to make a huge dent in our housing need, we should be pushing the provincial government to update the building code to allow this type of building, while at the same time updating our zoning to allow for middle-density housing that's needed to rise to this challenge everywhere in the city. Anything short of this will continue to see us falling short of our housing needs of all types. The advantages of this type of building are again, beyond the scope of this, but I really recommend checking out that report and seeing what we can do outside of this conversation. There are some places where I feel this project misses the mark. Richmond is in the incredibly envious position of essentially building our downtown from the ground up. We're shedding our suburban skin and metamorphosizing into a city. It's a great opportunity, especially in the face of a climate crisis and a housing crisis. We are the envy of cities around the world. Cities around the world who are currently trying to redesign their downtowns to make them more pedestrian friendly, move cars to their periphery and prioritize active transport where people can walk, ride, roll, or take transit to meet their daily needs. Unfortunately, many of the previously approved projects within the city center area plan, and this one that's on the table tonight, continue to prioritize private vehicles. We're building more car lanes, requiring massive amounts of parking, and maybe throwing down some paint in a gutter and calling it a bike lane. I would urge council to see this rezoning as a turning point. If you aren't to approve this rezoning tonight, or when you go to approve it, I hope it's because you're looking at reducing parking requirements, moving cars from the top of the transportation pyramid and prioritizing transit and pedestrians. This would have the added benefit of likely allowing Polygon or future projects of this scale to add more rental units. Speaking on the climate front, in regards to City Bylaw 7230, Amendment 10205, there's a bulletin that the city put out. It was updated January 5th, 2021, outlining future considerations for step code building requirements, saying that in January 2022, residential concrete towers and residential low and mid-rise buildings are expected to move towards step 3 and step 4 respectively on the energy code. Now, this hasn't been, to my knowledge, approved in a bylaw by council, but it's something that's seemingly in the works. Polygon first came to the table in 2020 with their project to council and outlined within their original report that they were going to meet the energy code requirements that are currently in place. So I do hope that council is considering this and making sure that this project will adhere to the new guidelines and that those new guidelines are passed as soon as possible so we can get more sustainable buildings with more energy efficient envelopes and continue to push our sustainability objectives. And finally, Councillor Day rightly pointed out that Richmond ranked number 2 in the speculation and vacancy tax revenue generated in 2020. I believe it's worth addressing, though, that she failed to mention that only 1% of all the properties in Richmond were subject to that tax. Of the 1,000 condos in question of this project, that would amount to 10 units. It should be noted that those numbers have decreased every year that the tax has been in place. It's currently less than half of what it was when it came into effect in 2018. And with these condos being many, many years away, that trend continued to go down. We're speaking about a minuscule number of units. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Respectfully, I believe these numbers show that while vacant homes do exist, and we should continue to put measures in place to further bring that number down, it simply isn't the boogeyman that some want it to be. Furthermore, making this into exclusively a condo problem is incredibly disingenuous. In 2020, only half of the properties subject to the the tax in Metro Vancouver were condos. And finally, I think it's worth remembering that the proceeds of that tax are meant to go towards the city where it's collected in to build affordable housing. So in conclusion, I've lived here my entire life. I've seen almost all of my childhood friends move away, either north into Vancouver to rent or out in the valley or south of the Fraser to buy their first homes. We need more homes of all kinds so we can help ensure that anyone who wants to live in this beautiful city has that opportunity. And these 1,300 units will help that. Thank you.
Just before we go to the question, it's been a bone of contention for this council that the speculation of vacancy tax does not come back to the city where it came from. And it should, in our opinion. But no, it just goes into the general coffers of the province. So we've got a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you very much for calling in. Welcome as a first-time caller. I know it's always a little intimidating to come before council. You mentioned a lot of things that are true. We do have a housing crisis.
What is your question?
My question is that given that there is a housing crisis, and you mentioned, and I want to question you about this, that 6-story wood buildings cancel out rentals. I'm a little confused about that. You also mentioned that we should be considering eliminating parking altogether, and that we should push the provincial government to change the rules, and that Richmond needs more rentals. So how would we what is your vision if we're going to eliminate parking and we're going to change the building codes with the province of BC? How do you visualize that?
So sorry, that might have that to your initial point, that might have been a mishearing on come through. I said sorry, it was that 6-story wood frame buildings pencil out for rental housing, i.e., they make sense. They're achievable in that form where they're not. A 15-story concrete rental building just isn't viable, is the point I was trying to make there. To your second question about sort of more broadly what my vision would be, it's not about eliminating parking. You're not getting rid of parking. You're allowing the developer, you're allowing them to decide how much parking they want. It's not about eliminating parking altogether. It's eliminating this minimum mandatory requirement. Because the developer knows how much parking they need to get out of the building what they want for it. This is a perfect area where you're right next to the Canada line. You're in a perfect spot. The Polygon is giving 2 bike lockers for every unit. There's a lot right about this project, but it can go a step further. Cities around the world, and Edmonton, Toronto just recently announced, are eliminating parking minimums altogether. Let the developers decide how much parking they need, and they'll build that much. In terms of the building code, I honestly, it's beyond the scope of this. So I would say just please read the Larch Labs report that was submitted to City of Vancouver on single stair buildings. It outlines just how much that would unlock for Richmond trying to achieve our housing needs. We need to be building housing everywhere, not just in the city center.
Sir, you're repeating
Sorry,
yourself.
I'm going off topic. You're right. That's it. I think I answered your question, Councillor Day.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. The next person is Denise Aiken.
Hello. I don't have all these facts and figures. I'm just a regular citizen. I moved here from Ottawa 7 years ago. And in my experience, start my video. And since I've been here, all I have seen is every bit of space of land is being built up with condos. Shopping centers are being replaced by condos. There's row houses, townhouses, whatever you choose to call them, but they're all very expensive. They are not what the regular, normal, average family can afford to buy. And the thing that concerns me with a project like this is it's just another large project that is catering to those who have and not to those who have not. I live in a low-rise condo building. The people now who are moving into this building are young couples who are having children. They live here because they can't afford to buy a house. And this is how they're going to raise their children. I never hear of a major project which is going to address the homeless and the people who are on low incomes. And even a low income, like what is that? Nowadays, you can't afford to buy a house if you don't make more than $100,000 a year. So I don't quite understand why you people always seem to be catering to those who have money. I don't understand your philosophy. I don't understand why you are not working more for the people who built up this city, who grew up in Richmond, and who now have to move out if they want to live somewhere. So my question to you briefly is, who are you working for? Because it's not me and it's not all my neighbors. So which people do you represent in the city? And to me, it's only people that have money.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am, for your presentation.
Excuse me, I asked a question there.
I think we'll take that as a rhetorical question as to who we're acting
No,
for.
it's not a rhetorical. Excuse me, sir. It's not a rhetorical question. My question is, you are not representing low-income people. You are not representing me as a retired person. So I'm asking you, you were voted in by the citizens of Richmond. So I'm asking you, which citizens of Richmond are you protecting and which ones are you taking care of?
All right.
And you
Yes, thank you very much.
answer me and tell me that.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. And Councillor Day, we're taking that as a rhetorical question. It's not a time where we're going to have a speech.
Okay, fine. I'd like to ask a question.
I'm not asking for a speech. I'm asking for a simple answer to my question. Are you representing average, normal people or rich people?
Councillor Day,
yes,
do you have a question?
Hey, Denise.
Go ahead.
Thank you for your comments. I feel for you. Can you tell me, in this building that you live in, what percentage of the condos that have families are trying to raise their kids What percentage, if there was like 50 units in your building, what percentage are families attempting to raise their kids in such small surroundings?
Well, every year it becomes more and more, so I would say probably now we've just had more people move in. There's actually 114 units in this building, but I would say we're working our way up so that now we have probably 20% of the people in this building and the other one. And as every time someone moves, the people moving in are young couples. And if she isn't pregnant at the time she moves in, she is pregnant within the first year.
All right. Thank you for your presentation, ma'am. That completes the presentations. There is a provision, if anybody, you get 10 minutes for the first time. If anybody has something new to add, not the same stuff, but something new to add, you've got 3 minutes. I think most of the people or some of the people are still in the room. I'm not seeing any hands being raised here. All right, so I've just got a couple questions. One thing that's been referred to a number of times is whether low-end market rentals is actually affordable housing. Can we have staff just describe how you derive the rental rates for Lemur units?
Through your worship, there are various types and forms of affordable housing, including both housing for low-income and moderate-income households. The low-end market rental program is aligned with the definition of affordable housing used by other governments, including the federal government and the city of Burnaby. The program targets households with low to moderate incomes between $35,000 and $60,000 per year, and rental rates are established at 10% below average market rent, as defined by CMHC.
Is it based on income?
Yes, there are guidelines for both rental rates and household incomes. And the household incomes are established relative to the housing income limits established by BC Housing.
All right. And the second question that I'd like to ask, this urban forest has been mentioned a number of times. How much of this urban forest is being reduced if this project goes forward?
Through your worship to council, I'll ask Sarah Badgel to respond to that. She should have the numbers with respect to the tree retention plan on hand.
All right, who's going to respond to that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Certainly. Just bear with me a moment, please. There are currently approximately 169 trees on site. 86 of those are on-site trees, and 83% of those are park trees. Within the park, Parks Arboricultural and Parks Planning staff have tried to look at every single tree and retain every one possible from a safety perspective, from a tree retention perspective. And having looked at all of the 83 trees in the park area, the proposal is to retain 54 of those trees. In the on-site areas, it is more challenging due to road improvement needs and development siting. Of the 86 trees on site, we've been able to identify that 12 trees would be retained and 206 replacement trees would be provided through the development permit.
Okay. So, having gone through that, we'll ask for action on second and third reading. No, I'm sorry. I'm out of action on second and third reading on the OCP. Someone want to move it? Moved and seconded. Okay, discussion on that? Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you. I did have a couple of questions to staff. As we were looking at the lemur rates and we're looking at the housing needs report, it states that 20% of buyers in Richmond can afford an apartment worth $720,000. For that, they need $130,000 income. What percentage can they imagine of these 1,014 strata units would be affordable to the average person?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, city staff do not get involved with what a project would sell for. That question is best addressed by the applicant.
Okay.
All right.
Is the applicant available, or?
I don't think the applicant is here.
Well,
unless there's someone from the applicant? Nope.
Okay. I have quite a few questions of the applicant, so they're could we try a little harder?
Through your worship, it does appear that Mr. Glover is in the meeting. I see him.
Okay, Robin Glover, can you answer some questions? Robin, are you there? Go ahead and take off your mute. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, the video and the audio was muted by your office there. It's not on my end. Through Mayor Brody to Councillor Day, you had some questions.
Yes, okay, so as you know, because you've read the housing needs report, 20% of buyers in Richmond can afford $720,000 to purchase an apartment. That's $130,000 income. What percentage of the 1,014 strata units would be affordable to those buyers?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, that's not a question I could answer today. Even if the project is approved today, we're not looking at handing over homes to purchasers for likely 3 years. So I couldn't speculate on what that percentage might be. I do know that we're delivering a range of housing sizes with different bedroom configurations to try and appeal to a broad base of buyer, but I couldn't be more specific than that.
That surprises me, because I would think that you have a target market that you're going after, given that earlier you said...
In any case, what's your next question?
My next question is, given that there is a desperate need for rental housing, and as is mentioned earlier by a number of speakers, pension plans and Canada Pension Plan and developers and whatnot are looking for rental tenure, opportunities. The last time you spoke to council, I asked you this question: how have you spoken to pension funds and other larger groups that would be interested in rental buildings? And you said you didn't know and you were going to look into that. Have you looked into it, and what was the response by the people you contacted?
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Day, we have had those conversations. The truth of the matter is twofold. The first is there is a lot of uncertainty around this project at the moment. So getting a commitment from anyone at this point is a challenge, given the unknown timeline for approvals. The second piece is that having a REIT or another large investment group on board is not the silver bullet to suddenly make the profit, the numbers work for a project to be profitable. Typically, those large investors are paying lower rates than another operator might pay. So it is at this stage of the game, it is not a panacea to make the affordability question go away.
So, okay, that's about dollars and cents. It's not as profitable to sell a 10-year building to an investor such as a CTP.
In any case, we're dealing with land use.
Mm-hmm.
Please confine yourself to that.
Okay. So we had quite a few people that talked about, one person actually said he was asked to speak on behalf of Polygon. Did Polygon reach out to their former buyers and contacts to ask them to speak on this project tonight?
You know, that's, Councillor Day, please go to your next question.
I think it's an honest question. If Polygon has lobbied a number of these speakers, Mr. Chang, wow.
Listen, I've heard all kinds of people who have been lobbied tonight and every other public hearing. Go to your next question.
Okay. Okay, that's that. And we'll go on to the next one here. So there's no guarantee that these units will be rented. We have heard a number of people say that they're buying it for retirement or buying it for when their kids get older. When you're marketing this, do you implore upon them the zoning restriction that we put on the property that any future stratas must allow rentals in perpetuity?
Yes, we do, absolutely. That would all be contained within the disclosure statement and would be available to any purchaser.
Good, that's positive. I had a question about on the rooftop gardens, which are all located in the affordable housing building. You stated that there was going to be 48 by 40 inch little garden containers, about 15 or 20 of them. That doesn't seem much on this 1,000 square foot deck. How many units are in that building?
There are, the goal with the rooftop garden is for it to be a demonstration project. As I indicated earlier, there are some technological challenges that we need to overcome in order to be comfortable with what we design before we go and repeat it. We do build hundreds of homes in a year. We want to be clear that we have the design solution in place before we go and repeat that elsewhere.
Okay, and my last question is, you and I had talked about this before. If we were to eliminate the voluntary public art project, which is a significant amount of money, I don't have it in my head right now, could we gain more affordable housing units instead of that public art project?
I believe that would be best answered by staff, but in principle, we don't have an objection to how those funds are used, and I believe it's at council's discretion where they wish to allocate those funds. Now, that said, we would not want to see this application be held up because of further deliberation of those funds, but perhaps they can be held aside and applied towards the Affordable Housing Fund. But I think staff's probably best prepared to respond to that.
All right, so we're talking about the official community plan, and I'm going to call the question on the motion, which is to approve it. All those in favor? Any opposed? It is carried with Councillors Wolf, Au, and Day opposed. Councillor Au, you had your hand up? Okay, so then we'll go to third reading on the zoning. We have a motion? Moved and seconded. Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I didn't speak on the last item there because I didn't have any questions for Mr. Glover or for staff, and so I voted in opposition as I am for this item that's currently before us. But I'll just make a few summary comments from reading the, I'd say, about 50 letters in addition to the speakers tonight. So I think we received about, sorry, not 50, 30, about, I'd say, 12 to 15 on each side. So first off, just listening to the authenticity of the speaking tonight, where people were speaking from the heart, as opposed to the style of form letters. I know I've sent form letters before where everyone's kind of saying the same thing with very little actual connection to the place. So first off, just to ground yourself on this site, you can look it up on Google Maps. I recommend not using an Apple product because they have older pictures that actually show a fair bit of green space around this property. which is actually all gone right now. You can go to the site, and it's all filled with condo towers and paved surfaces. So there's very little left, and it's artificial to just use some old satellite data. You can look through the report package that we have in front of us. If you've forgotten, from over a year ago, we had a great submission from Jim Wright with a lot of photo evidence, where you can see in our package here from page 222 to 242. There's 20 pages there of images from this site. So again, in case you're mix of what area we're talking about, because so much of this area of city center, of the West Canby area, has just gone so fast through development. Another point, I am also very familiar with Polygon. I've observed the wiping out of old neighborhoods and urban forest areas, all where I grew up, and I've been my whole life here, and that's almost 40 years. So the youngest on council, I'm aware of many people who've had to move because the houses that they used to live in were torn down, and they couldn't afford to even go into one of the many townhouses that took the place of that house. And so it's been heartbreaking to see what Polygon and many other development corporations have been doing to expedite so much loss. Council did get a memo the other day about building activity, and I think it really speaks to what we're considering tonight. Just last year, the city saw $719 million of construction. That's higher than the year before. That's higher than the average for the last 10 years. So if people are concerned of what they've been seeing a lot of, there's a whole lot more of it still in construction right now. So for us to approve more units of the same type that are going to be just inundating the rest of the city center and other areas, I think it's a foolish decision to go forward at this point. I know I've been critical of this development, but again, it doesn't have to be this developer. There's many decisions that were made before my time on council. I've only been here for this last term, but it's just astonishing that we've had in this last 3 years, we've had Richmond Center, we've had Lansdowne, and now we've had this come before council, and yet again, it's turning to the standard status quo development style of decisions being made, as was said earlier, for the haves and not the have-nots. And it's not that we need to go and support only one type of person in Richmond. We have a diverse community, and we have to have diverse options for it. Many speakers today had great points. I'm not going to use much more time, but some of the key things that I thought that will stick with me when I make the next vote here is hearing about economies for scale, what it takes. And this is a development that we can't just give the little required amount. We have to, as was said earlier, squeeze out more. And maybe this isn't the developer to do it. Maybe there can be a change of hands. And that's definitely not a surprise. Just down the road, there's been this development halfway through construction. It changed hands to a new owner. Another one is about who's paid to speak or invited to speak. We didn't even get the answer to the person who would have been best able to answer that. And hearing from people who live in Polygon, it's a little bit sided how you weight their comments. We heard about Lemur. The MR in Lemur is market rental, right? Those are tied so tightly to it. We heard about sorry, just slow down here. We heard about the definition of a village in the Garden City initiative that thankfully gave rise to a place where my great grandparents moved to in the late 40s, early 50s, and it was just a stone's throw away from this property. They were raising cows, sheep, and pigs, and growing strawberries, and that was all they could do. Coming here with so little. And the Garden City, as we knew it, is almost gone. This project will deem to remove anything else that could have been added to the network, ecological network. The Garden City lands doesn't need to be contained in a square. It could be more of a Garden City Lands approach to how we live, how we develop, how we govern the city. And so with those statements and much gratitude for all the speakers and writers on both sides who are taking the time to be part of this tonight, I do have to say I miss these lengthy meetings because it brings out the voices and the faces that we long to see. So thank you very much.
Councillor Steeves. You're muted, Harold. There you go. No, now you're muted again. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I will be supporting this development. Believe it or not, I think it's probably one of the best developments we're approving so far. Each one gets a little bit better. We've been doing it in increments. We've increased the amount of low market housing, and we've actually increased the amount of rental housing. Only a few years ago, we had neither. What I would like to see is affordable housing that is subsidized, and nobody seems to be arguing about that. When we debated this last time, everybody wanted to add more rental housing, market rental housing, which actually does no good for those. The friend of mine, for example, who lives in a tent, and another who's been living in a car for years. None of these things do anything for those people. I've been involved in every co-op that was built in Richmond over the years, and yes, somebody mentioned co-op housing. We need co-op housing. We need federal and provincial funds, and we need to start building housing that is subsidized for the low-end market. That said, in terms of this particular development, I think that that we've debated enough. Staff has done the best job they could in getting the best for the community. We've got a wonderful park that's being developed there. Yes, we're losing a few trees, but they're planting a couple hundred more trees. And trees in Richmond grow to quite a mature height in 20 or 30 years. So I think that will work, especially when we're saving 80 or 100 trees that are already there. Some of the people said, well, we don't want to have more housing at all. And I'd just like to point out that Metro Vancouver has told us to expect 1 million immigrants over the next couple of years or next few years. And I would say that mark that by 10 as climate refugees start coming north. We haven't even considered them yet. We have to increase our population. We have to densify. And the very best places to densify is in the downtown core. Where we have our transit centers and where we can get community recreation centers built in the buildings and so on, which we're getting here. And so I think that it's a good development. It may not be what everybody wants, but it's certainly better than any others we've had so far, and the next developments that come along under our new rules will be better still. I'm very pleased that they've been able to include the demonstration garden. The last one we did was in 2007 when Tessie Berg did one. In fact, the only one we've done. Tessie Berg did one on the roof of a building at Chatham Street and Number 1 Road. We've had a couple of units that are put roofs that are accessible, but none that are designed for actually growing gardens. And unfortunately with Tessie, we didn't set it up as a demonstration garden, so people just did whatever they want. This one is designed so it will be a demonstration garden. They'll be used in the city, the city portable beds that we're using in the Garden City lands and elsewhere in the city. And for the first time, I think in probably the whole region, we'll have allotment gardens on top of wooden roof buildings. I think that's a real first. And the developers have been in touch with Tessie Berg. I got them in touch, and we found out a lot of problems that Tessie had with his rooftop gardens. They're still there, but he had a lot to overcome, and it was quite expensive to build in the first place. So I think we're getting a first with the rooftop gardens that I'm hoping will spread through the whole of Metro Vancouver on wooden top buildings. And I think that basically that it's a good development. And I think that once it goes ahead, the next ones will get even better.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. First of all, I too would like to thank the delegates who came out and who were online. And you know, no matter what your position was, I think it's important to have that diversity of opinions. And one thing I'd just like to clarify too, I think it's really important that we don't get into the motivations of why somebody's speaking. I think people come at it from an honest position and are being sincere in what they believe, no matter what that is. So thank you very much for sharing that. We are in an affordable housing crisis and a housing crisis in Canada. Several good reports, the Canada-BC housing report led by Joy McPhail as an excellent one. The Bank of Nova Scotia has published several things. So a couple statistics are that Canada is in last place in the G7 countries, the most developed countries, one would say. Out of all of them, we're last for providing housing for our population. We are last in homes per 1,000 people out of the G7. Most people would not guess that. Canada is short about 1.8 million homes. That's what we are short. BC and Metro Vancouver will have a disproportionately high share of that burden because people want to move here, people want to live here. Just recently, Minister of Housing David Eby was quoted in an article as saying, we need massive increase in housing supply, a massive increase in housing supply. And he said, supply, supply, supply. He went on to say we don't need new taxes on houses. We need to reduce costs for families. And he also pointed out that in the first 6 months of 2021, 50,000 people came to BC, and there were 6,000 listings. So his point was supply and demand is one of the issues, not the only issue, but an important one. And I agree with that. In this city, I want to emphasize two important policies that we passed lately, and one was the eliminating the ability to restrict people from renting out their places in new developments, and also the restriction being eliminated by restricting people by their age. So that will open up market rentals. The province has various policies that have affected the housing supply as well and affordability. And I'll just mention one, and I'm glad to hear somebody in the speakers tonight mentioned it, and that's the speculation vacancy tax. That's an example, a controversial policy when it came out, I think, but it's an example of a policy that has worked. And in Richmond, we heard discussion about how much we've collected, but the fact is, and it has been mentioned, but I will repeat it, is that that number has gone down to approximately 1% of the units in Richmond that tax was collected for. And the trend and the interpretation of that data was that owners are making their decision to either live in the property or rent it out. So that is a decreasing phenomenon, and that's provincial data. This development in particular has made many improvements in the iterations that have come forward. I'm not going to cite all of them, but the ones that I thought were particularly interesting or important, the significant contribution to the Capstan Station, the Richmond Leisure Facilities Reserve, the Child Care Reserve, the art program. I really like the soil transfer from the site to the Garden City lands, and I know that the people at KPU and Garden City lands are excited about that too. I think the low carbon energy plant is very significant, and we didn't really talk about that very much at all, and other things, more minor things like transit passes, for instance. Those are all significant, and we can get into the park and more, but I want to be brief. This is a development that does create a community that's integrated into the surrounding neighborhoods. Most important, I don't think this is just about density. It's about livability. It's about walkways and pathways and parks and retaining old trees and owl habitats. And it's about creating a place where families, and it is expensive, even with the affordable housing, but creating a place where families have a chance to buy and a chance to live. I too know many young people that have had to move out of Richmond because they couldn't afford it. But this type of development, this type of densification, and this type of housing arrangement with 2 and 3 bedroom affordable homes, for instance, this is the type of development in this part of the city that's consistent with our planning and policy, that is the best opportunity to allow people and families to live in Richmond and continue living in Richmond. I think it achieves a balance in a very difficult and trying time, because although Richmond is an island, it's not an island on this topic. This is a Canada-wide, province-wide, Metro Vancouver, worldwide problem. If you look at the pages of the rezoning considerations, those are 36 pages long and very detailed that this development has to meet in order to ultimately go ahead. They're very significant. You should go through them. very low. I think I'm convinced that affordable housing, rentals, purpose-built rentals, all very important. Market rentals, market housing, they're all part of a larger puzzle. They're all part of the variety of housing needs that we need to solve the housing crisis that we have in this country and in Richmond. And I'll end with another quote from Minister Eby, Minister of Housing. And he said, we need a massive housing boom, including rental and houses for purchase. A massive housing boom. That's what we need because so many people are moving here. And housing is a human right. I agree with that. And supply is a big issue that we have to deal with. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
All right, Councillor Meaton-Helfey.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. First of all, I want to thank all the people who submitted briefs and came and gave us your opinions. I do respect every one of you, and I think you all had something to add and something to consider in terms of this development and any other developments as we go forward. And I do want to just echo Councillor Hobbs took away. I have the article here on the housing boom. The one thing that I will add to it, I am extremely pleased to see that a minister in Victoria finally recognizes there is a housing crisis in this world. I just wish the housing minister in Ottawa did the same thing and was prepared to do something about it. I won't quote what Councillor Hobbs said because he did hit all the points, but EB says, I will introduce legislation to expedite development of the much needed housing in BC municipalities. Thank you very much, Mr. Eby. I appreciate your comments. And I sit on the Housing Committee of Metro Vancouver, and this issue isn't just Richmond, which we're dealing with tonight. This issue, as Councillor Steves and Mayor Brody will know, that this is a Metro Vancouver issue, it's a British Columbia issue. This is an issue from Vancouver Island to Newfoundland. And as long as we're accepting and we're one of the most, probably the most desired country to live, and Richmond is probably the most desired community in the Lower Mainland in which to live, people are going to come here and want to come here, in whether they purchase, rent, or just even visit. And I think it's important that we realize that. Tonight's item on the agenda, I supported referring it back twice. And I looked at everything, and each time we got something better. As far as I'm concerned, at the moment, unless somebody can give me otherwise, and I haven't heard that tonight, is I don't know what more we can squeeze. If we can squeeze, I'm looking to squeeze. I don't know that we can. They made all the changes we want. I remember the first time we were not happy with the park. We were not happy with the flora. We were not happy with the habitat. They made a change. We talked about the trees. They made some changes. We talked about the number of units. We got in at the moment on the books, we have an increase. We have 327 units. If we don't take them, we'll end up with nothing. Many of those units are will be built in the first phase. It's like Richmond Center. We sent that back. We got 300 units. And in the first phase, it's important. The OCP that we set up a number of years ago said that we would densify the downtown core. But we need to provide all forms of housing. I have to agree with Councillor Steves, and we need co-op housing, we need row housing. I was a bit surprised with the definition of LMR, is if it's just market housing, then we've missed the boat, and our staff are going to come back with a study on that. Obviously, we've got to get to look at subsidized housing. Metro Vancouver and Richmond have 836 units in a number of areas in Richmond that do have subsidized housing. Okay, Monado Village and a number of the co-ops. But we need more of that. We need to find some land, and we need to donate that land so that we can have that kind of housing. I think it's extremely important that we continue that way. The 327 units is much more than the 15 that we require. I'm not saying it's great. City Center, we went over 18%, but I believe that it's something that we're in the thing. We can vote against things every time and turn down things and vote against secondary suites. We can vote against this, we can vote against that, but we're not increasing the stock. And I think we've got to encourage developers to put suites into places where people can rent. Students can come and rent, go to the university here at Kwantlen, a very prestigious university for people to come, or come here and live in Richmond and go to UBC or one of the other universities. I think it's extremely important. So with this particular one, Your Worship, I will be supporting it. I thank them for the rooftop gardens. I'd like to see wall gardens as well. You don't need 16 inches of soil to grow. You need 2 inches of soil, but we'll take it and spread that out. And I hope there will be gardens all the way along and the gardens in each of the apartments on it. I'd like to see solar panels in some of our developments as well, and we need to move up the step in terms of our energy efficiency in that. So I think for tonight, I know there was a lot of emotion tonight, and rightly so. You believe in it. But I have to make a decision what I believe is the best for the community. I'm prepared to take 327 units to move us ahead on it. There are other, you can't get everything all back in one swoop. You have to take it step by step. And if we get 327 units or thereabouts, as we move along with the development, Your Worship, each development, I think we'll be moving in the right direction. Unfortunately, we'll never get to the end and be providing for all, but we need to work towards that. Yes, we can do better, and we will do better, and I will continue to support better along that line. And I think our emphasis, we have to look at more the low end of the market and refocus on that. I understand, I think it was staff mentioned that we are, a number of developments coming forward with regard to total rental and rental for our people to stay in the community, for families. And I'm looking forward to be supporting them. So with that, Your Worship, I will support that, what's on the floor. And hopefully that we can do better. And I believe a lot of good things came out of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone who came out to speak tonight. I have to say that I cannot support the proposal as is, although I do not oppose to condo development on this site. Frankly, there are many good things about this project. I've visited this site several times, including once with Mr. Robin Cover. And I have to thank Polycon for doing many things right in preserving the trees. I think in terms of trying to balance between the need for more housing units and preserving the nature, I think they have found a right balance. However, my biggest problem with this project is that for a big project like this, I think the number of rental units is too small. We have already get a staff report saying that about 50% of the people in Richmond cannot afford even to buy a one-bedroom condo unit. So that means these units will be sold to people who can afford or to people who are not living in Richmond. And we know that we have a rental a shortage of rental units. Now, yes, I think Polygon has come up with more units for rental. They have proposed about 25% of rental units, including low-end and market rental. And the fact is, we still have to get a larger supply of rental units for the people who cannot afford the rent or to buy a unit. And we heard from the delegations saying that there are people who are living in vehicles. And I can tell you that I know of city staff who have to live in, or for some nights, they have to live in their vehicles because they cannot afford to rent a place in the city. They are living far away and they may not be able to travel back and forth every day. So for some nights, they have to sleep in their cars in Richmond. I've already preferred that we would have a proportional approach to the number of rental units that we request. And for a project like this scale, I would say 25% for market rental and 15% for low-end market rental is the starting point. So just to get 25 altogether is not enough. And we know that with more supply, the rent will come down and it would be able to meet the needs of more people. And I've also argued that by asking for more rental units, we are not hurting the profit of the developer. And we are also not asking the developer to make any sacrifice. It has been pointed out that in the original proposal, they offer only 120 units market rental. And then in the revised proposal, they increase it to 171. However, I have to point out that that increase is not being made by the sacrifice on the part of the developer in any sense. It came out from the density bonus given to them as an incentive. So we are not taking away anything from the developer in terms of profit or any kind of sacrifice. So I think by approving this proposal as is, we have lost an opportunity to get the maximum number of supply for rental units for the needs of our people. So that's why I'm not going to support this proposal as it stands.
Now, just before we go to Councillor Liu, I just want to clarify a couple of those comments. Councillor Au, you're saying that there are city employees living in their cars.
For some nights, I mean, not every night, right? But for some nights, they have to sleep in their cars because they live too far away and they cannot travel back and forth for every night.
What kind of city employees would these be?
I would tell you privately. I don't want to pinpoint the type of employees that we have that kind of problem.
These are regular vehicles, not trailers or camper vehicles.
Regular vehicles.
Just your normal car. Huh. Okay, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. And I too would like to thank all of the delegates who came out tonight and spent much of their evening either here or online watching and being part of this. Certainly I think we're always looking for a certain balance. I know we always need more housing, we need more green space, we need more amenities, we need more commercial space for businesses. We need all those things near transit and shops. And I think this project actually does a good job of getting as many of those things as possible. They've added the amount of green space, they've compacted what they're building, they moved it to preserve and save the old trees in the neighborhood. They've come up with more amenities, they've come up with more. Every time we've asked them for more, they've squeezed it and figured out how they could come up with more. To say that, well, we need more affordable housing and that's all we care about, well, it's not that there's just piles of either thing that we could have. It's how do we use one thing to subsidize another? So typically those lemur units are subsidized, and they're subsidized by the market condos. And the building of the market condos subsidizes the building of the affordable housing units. It's just like in the daycare program, the preschool children, they're the ones that actually subsidize the infant program. So just because of the way the numbers work with the amount of teachers to kids. Similar thing with how we're able to build, the developer's able to build and deliver affordable housing units. And so, you know, that we do things like reduce the parking so that they can produce even more homes. But at some point, the people living in the affordable housing, they still need access to parking. They still have cars. They still have to drive to their jobs, because not everyone has the luxury of a job at the end of a transit line. You know, I think we've heard from a lot of people tonight. You know, we definitely heard the message that delaying approval delays housing and increases prices. You know, Councillor Steve talked about in Metro Vancouver, everyone's expected to take on their share of the number of people coming to the region. Well, we can just look at the housing assessment and some of their numbers, and we know that Port Moody isn't taking on any more people. They're not building more houses. So their average house price went up 26.8%. Meanwhile, ours went up 19.8%. So, and their average residential place went up 15.8%, and ours went up only 11.3% for a townhouse or a condo. So we're seeing that if you're not taking on some sort of density, you will actually drive up prices in your community. And I think we are trying to do everything we can to still keep it affordable for everybody living here. And no, you're not going to be able to get, you know, a brand new house with a picket fence and a garden in the same neighborhood as your parents, just like our parents weren't able to do next to their parents, and that's why they moved to Richmond in the first place. I am excited to hear about this demonstration garden. I know I've heard from other city councillors. They had a public building that had a green roof, and it cost millions to fix that. And so I'm really happy to hear that Polygon's working to create something that will have a garden that really pays close attention to the building envelope, so that they're not saddling the affordable housing provider with the cost of having to fix a roof leaks and that problem. Because them being very careful about how they're building it, and so that they're not just layering on that cost to the end user, and especially if your end user is someone we're trying to get into affordable housing, to then saddle them with huge costs down the road, that's not what we want. But having them really carefully working with and talking to Councillor Steves and his access to people who are already doing this kind of stuff, to create something that's special, and that will be effective and useful. I think they're doing a lot of due diligence, and I'm going to support this project.
Thank you, Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to everyone who submitted correspondence and delegated tonight. They were very thoughtful commentaries from people who live in Richmond, and I appreciate the effort that was made. I will be supporting the recommendation on the floor. There are aspects of this application that I find really positive. I know a lot of the elements have been talked about. The voluntary contributions are significant, the low carbon plant, a larger relocated 1.34 acre city-owned park, the farm soil recovery, barn owl habitat, additional low-end market rental housing, which will be provided in the first phase of the development, and I think that's really important. These will come online first. Additional indoor amenity space, a bicycle share membership program, the transit pass program, the rooftop demonstration garden, which was recently added, and we're all looking forward to that. All these items add to the livability of the project. Someone else said it earlier tonight, but we can't get everything we want from a single project, even one as large as this. I believe that this project has been pushed to the max. We looked at if adding more density, we could get more units, and staff said that from an urban design point of view, adding more density is not advised. The City of Richmond has an official community plan, which is a statement of objectives and policies to guide decisions on planning and land use management. There are also area plans. This project is a perfect example of why having policy that is clear and transparent is so important. We all want different things from a project. And staff look to the policies in place at time of application to see that the applications meet the benchmarks set out by council. I believe that this project meets the requirements of the City Centre Area Plan and the Official Community Plan. I think we all agree that there needs to be a lot more housing of every type in Richmond. And just for the people who are viewing, we recently sent an advocacy letter to Metro Vancouver, to the province, and to the federal government saying that Richmond is open to working with all levels of government to bring those housing units online. And we will continue to push this agenda. All levels of government need to be at the table. Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, thank you. And everyone has expressed thanks to all the speakers who came out and gave us their opinions and looked at it, this project from their point of view. I'm also going to be supporting it I won't reiterate the reasons, but there's a lot of reasons why I should support it. So I'm going to call the question then on, let's see, this is the rezoning. We've already spoken about the official community plan. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried with councillors Al Wolf and Day opposed. Someone move adjournment. Okay, we're now adjourned. Thank you.